What is up, everybody, and welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm Jacob Turner. He's Andrew Jones. And AJ, I'll go ahead and talk about what everybody's probably thinking right now. We're not in our normal positions. We had to work hard to find a spot today, AJ. That's all I'm going to say about it.
We're in a bunker. We're hiding out.
We had to work hard today, man. I mean, it took us 15 minutes just to find a spot to do this with everything going on.
Yeah, the great Todd Gibson. Hey, Todd, I think it's locked that way. Okay. See, everyone's trying to find a way to do other videos. The great Todd Gibson. All the local people know who Todd is.
Definitely did.
Yeah, we're in the bunker. What was it? When in the Seinfeld episode when George was at Play Now and he wouldn't leave, and they put him in some cubby hole in the basement, and Jerry walks in. He's like, it's like Hitler's last days.
It's about what it feels like right now. But hey, AJ, we're making it work, and we always make it work. So we're gonna press on and get through this three things. But Carolina winning today, 96-81 over Virginia Tech, improving to 20-6, 12-3 on the season. I'm gonna run through some stats real quick, and then we'll dive into the meat of this podcast. Armando Bacot led the way, 25 points. 12 rebounds, yet another double-double for the program's all-time leader in that stat. RJ Davis, 20 points, 5 assists. Cormac Ryan, good game from him, 16 points. And Harrison Ingram, really big first half, a little bit quieter in the second, but still 12 points, 17 boards for the Stanford transfer. So good day all around for at least four of those five starters for North Carolina. And let's start on the offensive side, AJ. I just ran through some stats, so let's start there. Carolina shot 51.5% from the floor. I think you used the term, they felt like they just kind of had their way offensively today. I thought Cormac Ryan was big, and I believe I think you asked Hubert after the game, when a guy like Cormac's hitting, how big is that for your team? And I think you even might have said to Hubert, like, does that not open up space for Armando to be a little bit more dominant down there? And he completely agreed with that. So we've spent time on podcasts talking about the importance of Carolina shooting well from the outside to make it easier for guys like Armando down low. But I think today was kind of a prime example of that when you look at how well Carolina played offensively.
Well, I asked Hubert yesterday in the pre-Virginia Tech presser Friday afternoon over here at Smith Center about Cormac and how important. I asked him if the last game, really the last two, because he was 6 for 14 from three against Miami and Syracuse, which is good. I asked him, I said, is that sort of maybe like a fork in the road for him? Because psychology is part of it. And he just totally went in another direction, talked about all the different things, went into a laundry list of things that Cormac does for the team, all kind of stuff. Didn't want to go there. Today, I reminded him, I said, I asked you about it yesterday. I said, I totally get the whole of his game. I said, but specifically the shooting, he knew where I was going, and he rolled with it today. And clearly, that's what they need. That's one of the reasons they got him. They didn't get him to come in there and get rebounds because he had 2 rebounds today. They didn't get him to come hand out a ton of assists. He had 2 assists today. He's a shooter. He's a space consumer. He's an energy guy. He's a good defensive player. He was the one Tar Heel that actually got in front of Judah Mintz the other night. It turned out to be a 3 by J.J. Starling right afterward. That was one of several backbreakers. But there's a lot of things he does well. But the thing that he can do at an exceptionally high level from time to time is shoot 3-pointers. Yeah, shoot perimeter shots. He's got great range. That last 3 he hit from the top of the key was outstanding range. And that is big for this team because he's now 10 for 21 from 3 in their last 3 games. And they're finding more space. The driving room is starting to open back up. When Armando makes himself available and seals his guy, he's there. All of it was there. What we saw today offensively, I think it was sort of 2 different things. I don't think they had great juice. If this was the whole of the game, I don't think they had great juice. But when they got the ball on offense, they did. Part of it, Virginia Tech's not a very good defensive team. So we got to say that. And Carolina had some advantages there, but whatever juice the Heels had, they conserved on one end today, and they let it roll on the offensive end. And we saw what it looks like when RJ and Cormac are hitting threes. I don't think Harrison hit a 3. He was a little bit off. I don't think anybody else hit a 3, to be honest with you. But they got RJ and Cormac on the perimeter. Harrison just doing his thing, tipping the ball out, 17 rebounds today from him. And then Armando being incredibly efficient inside the paint, playing with tremendous confidence. He knew that Virginia Tech had nobody on its roster that could stop him, and he played that way. And the Tar Heels wisely went to him more in the second half, like they should have done up at Syracuse. So I think that seeing them play the way they did today offensively, seeing a lot of guys share the ball, RJ scoring 20 points on 13 shots instead of 20 points on 20 shots is a big damn deal for this team. I think today was the first time since before Georgia Tech where RJ had a highly productive stat line without looking like he was taking too many shots because someone had to shoot. He's none of his shots look rushed today. None of his shots look forced. None of his shots look like, oh crap, I better shoot because nobody else can get open. It wasn't like that at all today, and that is a very good sign going into this open period that they have right now before they go to UVA, because people were asking questions after the game. Some of the media were asking the players, did you guys get your mojo back? Are you back in a groove? I don't think that they're fully back in a groove, but they felt pretty normal offensively today. They looked pretty normal offensively. They were very Carolina-like in a lot of ways, and now with a little chance to get some rest, and knowing that they played this kind of offensive game going into against the best defensive club that can strangle you next week, I think this was a very, very good way to go into the break. For Cormac especially, I'm going to go back to him because I think he's an X factor.
Yeah,
because you know what you're going to get at the minimum from Harrison. You know that RJ's going to find a way to get his 20, but you don't want RJ to find a way to get his 20 in the tournament because that's an out. You want RJ to get his 20 on 13 shots like today. And you want Armando sealing guys, and you want the other guys on the floor to see him and get him the ball. I asked RJ, I said, in the second half, when you looked up and saw Armando in the paint, I said, was his man sealed every damn time you looked at him? And he said, absolutely. And they just chucked it in there, and Armando went to work. That's when this team is the team it needs to be. Armando doesn't have to score a ton for them to be a really, really good team because we saw what they were during that period when he wasn't scoring a lot. But now, if you add the Ryan perimeter shot and the Bacot seal and score in the paint, that to me, I think, is what we saw today offensively is probably what Hubert envisioned. And Elliot Cadeau had been shooting the ball a lot lately. I don't think he had 19 or 18 it was at Miami. That's not a winning formula because he's not going to do that very often. I don't think you can count on that. Elliott had a little trouble today, had 5 turnovers, didn't play a great game, but he still had a couple of really nice drives, and the drives were there. Cormac made some early threes, and it just changes things. I thought they were fun offensively today. I thought they were bad defensively, but offensively, gets you 96 points in the ACC, you're going to get a win.
Yeah, we joked that it felt like an all-star game at one point in the second half because neither team was really defending. It was just like score at will.
I said it was like a mid-July charity game.
Yeah.
The Hokies and Tar Heels were trying to raise money for like tornado victims or something, you know?
Yeah, just not a lot of defense, particularly in that second half. But again, Carolina, winning by 15. So I guess enough defense in the end for the Tar Heels.
Well, I will say this, because you and I, and this is going to be my takeaways, and you and I were talking about got 4 minutes in the second half. You sat next to the press row. And it's like they can't shake them because I thought they were fatigued. And the fatigue was showing up on defense. And RJ validated that for me. He said, yes, he agreed with that. So they would get the bucket, and then they just were slow on defense. They didn't rotate well. They were getting blown by. They didn't recover when guys got open on the perimeter. They just weren't very quick, and they weren't very good defensively. And they weren't able to pull away until the very, very end. And you and I marked about 8 different moments in the second half, periods in the second half. Okay, get 2 stops here, get 2 scores, they're going to pull away. And they were unable to do it, but they did at the very end. I think what got it going was a block shot by Armando. Armando had a nice block shot, and then that sort of kind of put a nail in the coffin for the Hokies and gave the Tar Heels a little bit of juice, and they were able to go ahead and win by 15, which is probably what they should have won this game by.
Yeah, I agree. I think ultimately Carolina deserved to win today. And I think another reason that they deserved to win is we were talking about this before we hopped on there was a lot. If you look at the stat sheet today, look at the box score after the game, very Carolina-like stats on there when you think about, okay, what is Carolina basketball? Well, let's read off some stats that reflects, okay, this is Carolina basketball. 43-31 advantage on the boards. Check. That's Carolina basketball, out-rebounding your opponent.
12.
Yep, 18-point advantage in points in the paint. Check. That's Carolina basketball right there for you. 17 second chance points, check. That's Carolina basketball. And 8-2 advantage on fast break points as well, check. That's Carolina basketball. So we saw a lot of very Carolina basketball-esque when you think of the history of this program, particularly under guys like Roy Williams. Out-rebound your opponents, get out in transition and score, dominate in the paint, and that's what we saw from Carolina today. So, and I think kind of building off the first point, or the first thing that we talked about, in terms of Carolina having their way offensively and what the recipe for success is with this team. AJ, it's no coincidence that Carolina win, I don't want to say it was comfortable, but in the end, it was relatively comfortable. I think Carolina kept it at double digits. BT would cut it to, 8 sometimes, and then Carolina would get it back up by 12, and then it'd go to 8 again, like we were talking about a second ago. But it's no coincidence to me that when Carolina is filling up the stat sheet in those certain areas, they're at their best. And I think, I'm not going to say Carolina was at their best today, but I thought Carolina looked good today and were able to win by 15 in the long run, because they dominated in those stats that are, what we're accustomed to seeing when it comes to Carolina basketball.
Yeah, as per what I was saying a minute ago, like they were spurred away from making it comfortable. But
so many opportunities.
It wasn't super comfortable because I kept saying, they're letting these guys hang around and they can rain threes, so you don't know what's going to happen. But they went and took care of business. Carolina only had 8 transition points, but they only gave up 2. And I think for this team, the 2 is the part that is Carolina basketball to me. Carolina basketball 2023-24. This has been an outstanding team limiting transition scoring opportunities for opponents. And I'd been tracking it pretty hard and was detailing it for a while. I think Duke kind of rocked that number a little bit, and then Miami had some transition points, but they were back to where they were. There were some of these stats that you just read off were the kinds of numbers that you saw during the 10-game win streak that had been absent since going back to the Georgia Tech game. For example, they out-rebounded them by 12. They hadn't out-rebounded anybody by more than 7 going back to the Georgia Tech game since this recent 5-game stretch started, when the 10-game winning streak ended. So being plus 12, they were plus 4.4 in the last 5 games. And then in the 10-game win streak, they were plus 13 something, around 13. So they got back to what they were. Points in the paint, I think this was their most points in the paint since the home win over Syracuse, and maybe second most points in the paint all season. This team doesn't always score a ton of points in the paint because they do shoot more threes. But Hubert noted today, look, we've been shooting more threes than we had free throws. And that's the thing. When you shoot threes, you don't draw as many fouls. Go inside drive, you draw a lot more fouls. We saw that today. They got to the free throw line. And I just think that the whole way that they want to approach things offensively, the way that when they do their walkthrough the day before, the shots they want to get, that they talk about, are the shots that they got today. And that's Carolina basketball. That's what this team was doing when it won 10 in a row for stretches of the game enough where they defended. Now, they didn't defend today like they did when they won 10 in a row. I said a couple times, and I'm gonna hammer myself over this because I kept saying, man, defense travels. It stays with you. It's in that little bag you take everywhere you go. But it hadn't been doing that. And this team's going to have to get back to that in order to achieve their goals. I think offensively, if they move forward relatively like they were today, they'll be fine. They'll be positioned to win every time they take the floor for the rest of the season. It's the defense that has to come with it. And by the way, I also thought there was great energy on the glass. They didn't steer their energy toward defense today, but they did toward the glass. They had 5, 6, 7 tap outs. There was a lot of awareness, and they usually did something with it. I can't remember how many second chance points, 17 or 14 offensive rebounds. That's where you want to be. That's where you want to be. They hadn't been getting a ton of offensive rebounds of late, and their scoring off of offensive rebounds hadn't been that high either, been less than a point. So you want to be about 1.3 points per offensive rebound. That's where they were today. So a lot of boxes checked. A lot of this is Carolina basketball boxes checked. I think that's good for this group. They're going to feel good tonight. They're going to be pretty comfortable with with where they are at 20-6 heading into this open period. Still with a lot to work on. And I will say this too, and Seth Trimble's not 100%. I talked to him after the game today, and he's still going through some of the protocols and that kind of thing. So he's not popping yet. But when he does, you're going to get more from the bench. And I thought Jalen Washington gave some good stuff today. Jalen Williams gave him a lot of energy. Those guys aren't fatigued because they haven't been playing as much as they should have late. Go see the daily drop from Friday, and I kind of went off on that a little bit. But I think that the Carolina boxes, a lot of them were checked today, and that should please Carolina fans because not many had been checked since they won, what was it, at Florida State was the 10th win of the 10-game win streak. And they didn't even check as many boxes that game either. They weren't great that night. So this was the first time offensively and in the box checking that they have looked a lot more like Carolina, and Carolina in this version of Carolina.
Yeah, couldn't agree more with that, AJ. And last thing before we head on out of here, as we always kind of wrap these up with, let's talk about what this means. I mean, obviously, I think fatigue has been a big thing. We talked a lot about fatigue during the game, and we just spent a few minutes talking about it, particularly on the defensive end. And I think you even asked RJ after the game, like, and it's human nature too, right? Because people who've played sports will understand this. It's like you get a little bit of boost of energy when the ball's in your hands. That boost of energy when you're tired can go down a little bit when you're having to defend. And I think that was a prime example of what we saw today. I know RJ kind of agreed with you when you asked him that after the game, but I say that to say that this is a tired team. You asked a few players, including RJ, after the game, are you guys tired? They agreed with that. And when you look at just how the amount of travel Carolina's had, not a lot of home games in the past month and a half, I think this week break, particularly ahead of a trip to Charlottesville, where Carolina's just been notoriously poor over the last 10 years, is a real blessing for this team going into that, because that's a massive game, AJ. I know Carolina right now, Duke won today. Carolina's got a half game lead on Duke. Remains to be seen what happens with them throughout the week. So they have a midweek game. But UVA's right there behind them. So all of a sudden you go up to UVA and you lose, man, this thing could be blown wide open with who can win the regular season championship. So I think this week, and we'll do a drop after this on kind of what this week looks like for Carolina. But I think what this means, good win for North Carolina. Week coming up, break coming up. I think that's huge for them. And, I think Carolina should at least be feeling a lot more refreshed going up to Charlottesville this time next week.
Well, 20th win, they're 20-6. They were 20-13 a year ago. So in order to go 20-13 this year, they would lose the rest of the way. Lose their last 5 regular season games, lose the first game in D.C., and lose the first game in the NCAA tournament. That makes them 20-13. That's obviously not going to happen. Armando was asked today afterward, does it feel good to not have to worry about the bubble? And he's like, he had his biggest smile, genuine smile. And because since 2019 was the last time North Carolina basketball team didn't have to worry about the bubble or had no chance of getting in. The 2020 team, 1920 team, the Cole Anthony year, they had no chance of getting in. So this is the first time that they're locked in. I actually asked him, I said, did you know that they did that mock, the top 16 seeds today, the selection committee did. So you guys were the top 2 seed. You were the 5th seed overall. And he was kind of surprised. And I thought that that's a good sign, because I think Armando is very genuine. He likes to joke sometimes, but he can be very, very genuine. And his reaction to that was, wow. And it tells me that he knows they could get a lot better. And they could play a lot better. And they have not played well for a while. They haven't felt a whole lot like Carolina for a few weeks. And they're number 5. They're the top 2. And he said that we have our goals in front of us. And he said, Charlotte, we want Charlotte. So to get a 1 seed, they absolutely will be Charlotte. 2 seed, they probably would be Charlotte as well. But I think that they know that there's a lot more out there. And they know that they didn't put both of their best feet forward today. I think they put one of them. That was on the offensive end. I thought some of the energy on the glass too. But defensively, they know it wasn't there. And that's a good sign. I think that one of the things that we had not seen from these guys in the last couple weeks when they've lost is the immediate introspection and being able to hit on stuff. I know that it's more difficult to get answers after a loss. And I've been asking questions for years, teams after they win, after they lose. I know that you're not going to get as much after a loss. I know guys sometimes a little bit more guarded. They maybe take the premise of the question a little bit more personally, and sometimes you got to ask tough questions. But I think that this was the first time, even after a couple of the recent wins, certainly the win at Miami, where these guys kind of felt some relief. Whatever had mounted, whether it was the combination of fatigue and, oh crap, we had a 10-game win streak and now look what's happening, and the long hangover after beating Duke, which was an achievement that a lot of these guys haven't had much of in their college careers. Remember, it's only RJ and Armando who made that run 2 years ago.
Sure.
So, of the scholarship guys. So I think that there was sort of a comfortable disposition in talking to the players after the game today, and even with Hubert too. Hubert was pretty jovial.
He was, yeah.
A lot of laughs, had some fun with some things, and I think they know that they're really, really good, and maybe felt today like they climbed out of that forest with all the murky water and the gators and maybe a rhino running at you or whatever. Those ugly spiders that you find in the woods. They kind of got out. They found the road, and now they're on the road, and they're going to flag someone down and get a ride home, and they're going to be good moving forward. So I think maybe today signaled they came out of that. Didn't always play like it, but by popping offensively, checking off some of those boxes that you noted a few minutes ago, and then talking to them afterward tells me that probably is what took place. And that's a good thing, because now they get a week where they're not stressed. They get a week where they're not feeling the weight of the Carolina basketball world. They know that A, they're going to work on themselves, get some rest. B, A, get some rest. B, work on themselves. C, get ready for UVA. And they're not going to start getting ready for UVA on Tuesday. You don't want to overdo it. You don't want to psych them out before they get there. You can treat them just like you do everybody else. And they'll, at the very least, be rested and prepared when they go to Charlottesville. So that's what this means. I think they climbed out of that little hole today, and that's a good thing for this group.
Yeah, I agree. I think I told you before the game we were standing on the court. I tweeted it out about an hour, maybe 2 hours when I was driving here to the game, that I had this feeling that this was just going to be, I called it like a get right game. Coming back home, I for whatever reason, anytime Carolina plays a Saturday afternoon game in Chapel Hill, I just feel like they're going to win. And I feel like I need to go look at the stats and see what their record is over the last 5 years on Saturday afternoon games. But it just feels, so I had that feeling coming in. And I think, like you just said, I think that's ultimately kind of what it was. So it's up to them to continue to build on it, because it does not get any easier next Saturday, but you'll take it. And there we go. Well, Kevin's signing, man.
Legend, Kevin Roy.
I love it, man.
Kevin has been coming through. But I've had a lot of video problems, stuff like that, and you and Kevin have helped me a lot. And Kevin likes to kind of get on me and have fun with me about it, because I am Techno Dunce. I'm going to produce T-shirts. I'm going to have a T-shirt line that says Techno Dunce.
We probably make some good money.
And over one of the letters will be like a dunce cap, little dunce cap days. And but he's really helped out a lot. I got to give a shout out for him. He had some really good ideas about some things too. And I reached out to both this week. We actually changed the name of our tidbits to Inside the Game. I'm always looking to tinker. And the cool thing is Kevin doesn't, if he thinks of something, he doesn't wait for me to ask. He's just going to fire it at me.
Yeah.
So
he's been fantastic. Yeah. Point to the passer. Point to the passer when it comes to.
He's going to walk back, because I think he went to the restaurant. He's going to walk back there and I'll put him on camera.
I'm surprised he's still here, man. He's late night for him, you know.
I know.
Grinding it out.
Maybe he was waiting to crash the video.
Yeah, maybe he is, man. Maybe he wants to appear in one. It might be his first time on.
I say we stay on for him to come by, so I can get it back. You know how it is.
Let's see how long it takes. I mean, I'll sit here for 30 seconds.
My competitive juice is coming out right now.
They got it. We've been trying to get him on camera for a while. I guess we kind of got him. We got his backside in about 30 seconds. I guess that's progress.
Didn't he do a roundtable with us or something one time?
I don't think so. I don't think he's ever been on the channel. I think he's been on some private videos. There's Kevin.
He is. The legend, Kevin Roy.
There we go. Love it, man. We've been waiting for that.
Hey, if you like looking at photos, make sure you look at his work, because Kevin does really good work for us. And he works very hard. He buys new equipment, and he has to tell me. And then when he sees me, he's got to show me. And I don't know the last thing about it. You guys are showing me how to use this damn thing to take photos and videos.
Hey, you're learning, man. You're figuring it out.
I'm learning. But
2-hour drive just about for him too. He's, you know what I mean? So it's not like a close drive like it is for us too. So.
He's had away games. He's going to go to the Final Four if Carolina goes to the Final Four.
Yeah, man. He's been grinding out.
He hasn't covered one before, so that'll be exciting. I look forward to seeing. I'll look forward to just kind of seeing how he reacts to the awesomeness that is covering a Final Four.
Yeah, and other Carolina fans will just be praying that Kevin is at the Final Four, because that means Carolina's there too. So we'll see what happens a little bit later on. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. We're gonna do a drop after this. Stay tuned for that. That'll come out on Monday morning. So we'll talk a little bit about what the week looks like for North Carolina. Short little drop, and then hopefully we'll have a few more pods next week as well. So stay tuned. Keep it locked to TarLillustrated.com. You can sign up for just $8.33 a month. Links in the description below. Like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell too. All right, AJ, I'm gonna challenge the people. I want at least 250 likes. I don't think we hit our mark last time after the. Can't remember what game it was now.
Miami.
Can't remember what game it was. Yeah.
It was Miami.
I don't think we quite hit that mark. Yeah, I don't think we quite hit it.
Our traffic on stuff has been very emotional lately.
Yeah, it's not usually like that with basketball.
People were not very happy with the way that they won at Miami. So maybe they're happier today because they scored a lot of points.
Yeah, I want at least 250. I think that's an easy mark we can hit. So give me 250 likes below, and we'll see if we can rack those up. Appreciate you guys watching. See y'all next time. Thanks.